Hi, students. Sadly, after finishing this wonderful class today in Humanities, I realized that I had not recorded. And I wanted to be able to have something here for everybody to look back on if they have questions about the written final and the oral final. So I'm going to go over these. These instructions are at your hands. You can go in and look at them when you're ready. But what I want to make sure is that you recognize that in any exam, there is an element of being nervous, and there's an element of anticipation, maybe anxiety mixed with that, not knowing what to expect. But for the most part, with a written exam, it's going to be similar to what you were to do in Canvas and answer questions. And we'll go into a little bit more detail about how thorough you ought to answer. Know that there are 12 questions in this exam, and you have 3 hours to do it. There's also some extra credit questions here, and those are to help lift up your points if you need them. They don't have any point value on the test itself, but it'll show how much they are worth, how much value they have right there as you open up the test. By the way, you need to be proctored for this exam, and that just means that you just need to be in the same room as a mom or a dad, and however you're going to work it out, whether you go into their office while they're working and bring your laptop, or that your mom is in the room, or your dad, and they're just kind of there for you to be accountable. And the reason why we want that is because you can only use your books and notes, and your notes in any form. If you've taken notes on Canvas, or you've got some online documents, if you want to print those off, sometimes that's nice to have too. But you can use your notes in any form. What you cannot use is the internet to search for answers. And that's when you type into Google, what is Paradise Lost Book 12 about? And it'll give you an answer. Therefore, you have not studied well, you've not taken the notes, you don't know, you just got the answer, which is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for what you learned in in this semester, because you are the more important thing. It's not the answers. It's you and your habits and your development is what's important. Now, if you've been relaxed in taking notes, or things have come up and you haven't done really well in taking notes, that's okay. You can still use your book to go in and find some of those ideas, or you can excuse me, you can just do the very best you can with remembering from the discussions. Excuse me. So you will be proctored, and the proctor person will contact me through my phone, because here's my phone number, and they'll text me, and they'll let me know how you're going to be proctored, and I will give them the code that you need to get into the test. And once you start that test, it's a 3-hour period that you need to get it done. So don't plan on going anywhere. As you have noticed with me, questions that I ask have multi-parts to them. And some of you, most of you, answer all parts. Some of you are not very careful, and you don't go back to look at all those parts of the questions to see if you have answered them. And that's probably not going to help you. You need to remember, okay, have I answered all of these questions? And then go back and fix it if you haven't. The reason why I have multi-parts is because a group of questions helps to go deeper, helps to draw things out of your memory and your heart even deeper. and it actually teaches you in the process. So as you write these things in multi-parts, it's pulling the most important things out, which when they're pulled out, you are the one that learns. Okay, now this is what I'm going to look for when we assess your test. I'm going to look for knowledge. Do you know key people, places, dates, and events? A lot of times we debunk these things, saying that they're not important, but they actually are very important for your long-term memory. They help so that when you have an idea of a year in mind and an event, you can actually use that to compare with some other things that are happening. And what I said today in class was, if you know that Moses lived in 1500 BC, then you can see that, in about 300 years or so would come the Trojan War, which would be about the time of the Iliad and the Odyssey. And if you knew that the last apostle was killed about 70 AD, then you would know that, there was no direct revelation on the earth from that time on. And you can see that when they had the Nicene Council in the 300s, I think it was 325, they were a long way away from having that direct revelation. From 70 to 325, that's a long time. That's almost 300 years. So a lot of corruption can pass through. So it's really important that you do know dates and events and places and key people for your long-term memory. And that you're gonna get. It doesn't come super easily right away, but you will get that and you'll keep building on it and it'll become one of your best friends. So we're gonna look for that. And also we're gonna look for understanding. Do you understand how the idea or action of one person resulted in a specific event or culture later in history? I did a little video about the Enlightenment, and I talked about how the Enlightenment settled in and it brought some good things and some bad things, and some of the end products are what Karl Marx and Engels did with their dialectic materialism and debunking God and everything that God has instituted that's good. And if you even go further, there's even another end product, and that is the Common Core that most parents that are homeschoolers really detest because they've used dialogue to get to what they think is the best education. They're not going back to stand on the shoulders of giants, which you'll learn in the Battle of the Books. And they're not studying the great ideas in the books that teach about why you want to obey God, why you don't want to sell your soul to the devil. So education really is a very different philosophy today because of the Enlightenment. But we want to understand that and figure out what we want to do to change that and fix that in our life. And that's the understanding part. And I'm also looking for wisdom. Can you apply the knowledge that you've learned in these books? Can you apply the knowledge? Can you pray more? Can you understand the beautiful role of Adam and Eve and the wonderful role of the angels who have come down to teach prophets at different times of the history about the world, the creation, the fall, and the atonement of Jesus Christ? Can you use that knowledge and express it to somebody else? Bear testimony of the great truths that you're finding in these books. Can you bring up a discussion at your dinner table about what you're learning? That's the wisdom, is applying what you've learned and teaching other people. In Doctrine and Covenants 8878, it talks about that we need to teach each other diligently. In another place, it says the same thing, and that all of us can be edified. That's the wisdom. That's what I'm really looking for. Now, once you've answered the question, each question, go back and look at these questions here to make sure that you've done a thorough job. Does your answer show a work ethic that matches your ability? How thorough is your answer? Have you used all of these ideas here? And are you able to interact with and explain the principle through your answer? Is it really, can I tell that you're into that question, that you really can interact with it? Now, remember, don't spend 2 minutes on a question because you won't be able to do all those things, but you do need to spend less than 15 minutes on each question. And I'm sure some of you can do a really good, thorough job in about 5 to 7 minutes on each question. You do have 3 hours to complete the exam, and you can choose when you want to start it. It starts today, Wednesday, and goes all the way till Friday night at 10 p.m. If you start it at 9, you will only have 1 hour to complete the exam. If you want to have the 3 hours, you need to start it at 7 or before on Friday. So when it says once you begin the exam, you must finish within a 3-hour time period, that's not the truth if you started at the last hour. Okay? And it's not going to follow the parable in the New Testament about the people who join God's labor at the 11th hour. You will have less points if you do that. So I suggest starting at least 3 hours before that deadline. One thing that I feel is very important is that you eat about an hour before you take the test, and go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, do what'll relax you. If it doesn't relax you to eat, don't eat. Excuse me. You will open up this page and you'll begin. And once you have finished, remember to submit it. Okay? Another thing I need to tell you is it would be really wise that you are very careful with, I think you can submit after every question. If you've been writing for a while and your page, what's the word, refreshes, you probably will lose that one part you've just worked on. So be really careful. Sometimes people open up a doc and answer it in a Google Doc, and then they copy and paste it and put it in the test, and then submit that question. Then you go to the next question. Answer in a Google Doc, copy and paste and put it in this document. Or you may get very frustrated. I know it's not your fault, and it's not my fault, but it will definitely set you back. So just take those precautions, and you will for the rest of your life, because that's the life of computers. After you finish, jump up and down, go make some cookies or brownies and eat. If you're not into sugar, eat a piece of exotic fruit. This test is worth 200 points. If you get all of those right, you get the 200 points, and you'll get the extra credit points as well if you answer those. So one thing I didn't talk about today in class is if you come to a question and you just don't know the answer, go to the next question really quickly. Skip that for a minute, and you can go back to that when there's extra time. That's a good rule of thumb for any big test to take. And by the way, I have not taught to the test like they do in Common Core. We have had wonderful giants in which we've stood on their shoulders, maybe not this one yet. We've had wonderful discussions. We've had some good questions that help you go further and deeper. But it really is up to you if you took notes and you got out of the discussions what you need to get out of. The questions can be your friend in any situation, whether you are prepared or even if you're not prepared. And this test will help you be better prepared the next time. So I love all of you, and I care about you, and I care about who you are inside, and I care about who you are becoming. And that's what the purpose of this test is to help you to become. Thank you.